Hello and welcome. Just had to get things set up there. I was messing with audio. The music, you'll notice we're at the beginning of the song. We just started that. Hope you're all having a great Thursday. As you probably notice, I still have a little bit of a cough. It's going to take a little bit for this to disappear, but I think we'll be able to do a good stream today. So, what we are going to work on today, you probably noticed the bot is already in chat and talking away with us. So we have various things that I want to look at today that we'll talk about. There's some new features we're going to be building. I want to take a look at the issues that we have that are in our GitHub repo. Hey, Sky Hoshi, Arid Tag, hope you're both having a great day. So, what we are working on today is, hang on, let me pull up a couple of things. Wasn't 100% prepped when I started the stream today. Clicking a couple of buttons, there we go. Okay, so, we got a couple of issues that people put in here that I do want to talk about. One of the ones that I put in here was we want to allow a mod to be able to edit a quote. So right now, any of the quotes in the system are just add the quote, and if you mess up, well, you're going to get stuck going to the database to fix it because we didn't add the ability to remove one or edit one. So this is just a feature request. It's a pretty good, probably fairly easy one to add, especially when you see what we build today. So I'd recommend against anyone trying this before today's stream is done. The next thing that we had come in recently was this one. Include end-user support for getting a Twitch configuration. Okay, so, hey Janisku, welcome. So, the idea here is, in order to set up your bot to connect to Twitch right now, you actually have to go into the config files and add in some values that you get from various websites. So if you want to run an instance of this bot, you just go to the README section of our site. There are instructions, pretty easy to follow. We've had a number of people that have been able to set it up, and that's pretty much all there is to it. But the fact that you do have to go through and edit some config files and look up how to do that, that means it's more challenging than we'd like it to be for the bot long term. So it would be nice if it were just a step-through process where you just click some things that opened up the correct web pages and put the values in for you as you went along. So in order to do that, we're going to need to build our UI. So this one pretty much is on hold until we have our UI in place, which we are going to do soon. I think we're going to go with a web UI, figuring the web UI can run locally but could also be hosted, say, on Azure or any other service somewhere. So that's likely the route we're going to go. Other things, I'm going to jump us into what we are going to work on today. So let's have a look at that. So right now, in the bot, as anyone that's in here knows, the way that we do commands is this. I might want to say alias, and I will let you guys, well, here, you'll see it. So I can do a command for lurk, right? That's a simple command, and you should have seen it pop up on chat over there on the left, and you'll notice that when I say lurk, the bot responds and just says, hey, you know, that person's name is lurking here, blah, blah, blah. So that's a simple command where you do a single message, the bot responds with a single message, doesn't do anything. That's what we call simple message. Some of the messages we have are more advanced and take in parameters. So, for example, I might want to alias the help command, and I might want to say another way to call for help is to say, you know, fail, right? And so now if I say fail, it responds back with, you know, help commands. So I can use that as the help command now. So that's just another word for it. And if I want to get rid of that, I do alias del and fail. And you should have seen all that pop up in the chat in the lower right-hand corner there. that works well and is pretty easy to set up. And I will go ahead and show you how that's working. But it's kind of hard-coded into what that is, and I need to mess with our editor config because my resharper settings and our editor config settings are competing a little bit, so I'm going to need to mess with that at some point because they don't agree on exactly how everything should be set up. Okay, so when we first added this, everybody probably remembers that was here when we did the review of this pull request that brought in the alias feature. That I mentioned that I like the fact that we just started with a simple, hey, big the rig, that we started with a simple switch on this, and the reason I like that is because I was already planning on doing a specific structure that would be simple to replace this one with. So we're going to implement, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but it's basically going to be the strategy pattern. And we're going to figure it out on stream, so we're going to work together. I'm sure there is going to be a little bit of, you know, derping as we go, as we try to get things working. And there will be some points where things work, we'll be thrilled. Some points where we do something stupid and it doesn't work. But the point is that we're going to have fun with it and write some code that's better than what we've got today. So, that's the plan. Hopefully you guys are all looking forward to seeing what we do with that. And I've been mulling this around in my head for a little while. And I have some ideas for how this is going to work. Excuse me. And I have a feeling this is actually going to make some fundamental changes to how the bot functions in positive ways. So here's how we're going to start. The first thing I want to do is I want to get over here to the commands folder, and I think I want to call this operators. So operator is actually what JD put in when he started this pull request. And I think that's a reasonable word. We could decide to change it at some point if we want to. One other thing I need to do, before I forget, let me get us on our own branch. So, operation, we'll call it operations for now. If we decide to change it, we'll change it. Okay. So, here's the idea. I need to break this out as an operation, and this out as an operation. So I'm going to make a new type, starting with an interface. We're going to call this an operand. What is this? This is I mean, they're kind of like an argument. They're kind of like a parameter. Operator. Well, we'll do operator for now. Actually, maybe an command operation, which is kind of long, but I don't mind it. There we go. Command operation. So instead of operators, we're going to call this operations. So we're going to rename that to operations. And the idea here is we want each one of these to be an operation that we're going to perform regularly. So we're going to call this the add operation. We're figuring add is probably one of the most common operations that we're going to use. And the reason we're doing this is because a lot of things are going to be able to do adding. So we have quotes that do adding. We have commands that do. So we add in commands. We add in quotes. We add in aliases. So we already have 3 places where we do adding already. In addition, we're probably going to have like a join operation as part of our joinable games. So these are going to be common operations we're going to want to do. Now for the join, I'm not sure if there's always going to be a specific operand that we use for it. So for example, in rock, paper, scissors, you could join as rock, as paper, or scissors, or you could join with no operand at all. So we're going to have to consider how that works at some point, but we'll figure that out. So here's what I want to do. I want to give this a collection, and for now I'm just going to hard code it. We'll figure out passing it in at some point later. We're just going to hard code in the set that this one uses, and later on we'll figure out how to pass them in and maybe make them more reusable. So I'm going to make this just a list of command operations. And then this will be our operations. Why did that complain? Okay. So now I'm going to put in my initial add operation, and that'll be the only operation in here. So then what I want to do, hey, there it is. We are now being hosted by C# Fritz. Welcome everybody from C# Fritz, if you were all lurking around. Hopefully you are up for some more C# and .NET Core code. We're doing a little bit different stuff than what Fritz was doing. We have our own commands. They're a little more mature than the commands that Fritz has set up in his bot. His isn't really command-based for the most part. So if you are from that stream and haven't watched Dev Chatter before, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy what you see. So we are just figuring out if there is a way to leverage the idea of using a set of operations instead of looking for keywords being passed into our commands. So essentially looking to see, did this map up in some way, and if it did, try to reuse it. So we'll see what we get out of this. So the command word doesn't exist, and let's see. We want to look and see if any of our operations apply. So I am going to look for an command operation. Which actually I'm just going to call var for now. Operation to use equals operations singular default. There's going to be a nicer way to do this eventually, but for now we're going to do it like this. What did we call it on our bot command? So I want to take a look at our bot command. I called it should execute. So we're going to also check should execute. So we're going to add a should execute to our this. Instead of taking in the command text, so I feel like the operand that you're choosing on a command should always be the first argument. Maybe I'll just call it the operand for now. So YouTube channels about data structures. I don't know a good channel that has specifically data structures. If you mean like actually going over, you know, how to do a linked list and other things like that, and how to, you know, actually do that kind of thing. That I don't know, but I do know that you can find some good design patterns courses and a lot of websites on the internet. Heck, Steve Smith would probably yell at me if I didn't plug his design patterns course on Pluralsight, for example. Mexicana. Thank you for following. I like that name. Alright, so we're going to look for add to be our word. So what I'm going to say is operand dot equals, and I'm going to use our special equals, and I'm going to say add. So basically we're just going to say, hey, if you came in and that's what you've got, then we're going to go ahead and say yes to you. And right now I'm going to keep those in the same file. And we're going to say, oper. So we're going to pass in our operand there. So that should get us the operand that we want to use, if one exists. So then what we're going to say is, if operation to use is not null, then we're going to call it. So I'm just going to call execute on it. And I think I want to pass in a full command received event args and a chat client. And event args, which in some ways actually almost makes these still an ibot command, sort of. That's pretty similar, but we'll see how it ends up working. There might be an actual common interface that these two both use, but we'll see. Okay, so you got to remember that I am not doing I'm not writing a command that I'm not writing an I command operation specifically for the alias command here. I want to write one that's going to work regardless of which one it is connected to. So I have a couple of options here, and this is where we get into some important design decisions for the bot. So I want this to be able to understand either through taking in some code that is going to either in the constructor, we're either going to need to pass in the logic for what we want to have happen when we do an alias add versus a quote add versus a command add, for example, because we want this add operation to be able to work regardless. So we need to make sure that it's reusable in all those scenarios. And in order to do that, we need to figure out what we want to do. So in one approach, we could give the add operation a parent command. So I think I'm going to start there, but we might decide that we instead want to go the route of passing in just the function we want to execute instead of a full operation. So we'll have to figure that one out. Actually, for now, no, I am going to go the other route. I am going to write a function, and I'm going to say that this takes in a function, and that function is, it's going to be the add logic, I think. Ooh, that's a good question. I'll have to figure that out in a moment. Maybe I will make this the alias add operation for now. We're going to hard code in the alias one. That's what we're going to do. And then we'll extract out the common features in a moment. So we're going to start with the add alias operation. Excuse me. Okay. So if we do the add alias operation, then that means that it's going to do this code. So we're not going to use those, and we are going to use link for this. Type name, where did type name come from? We pulled that out. Command word, policy, byword. Okay, so this is getting the Let's see, more coins to play. Oh, that is a good point, Janisku. There's a bug with that. If you want, you can add that to our list of issues on GitHub, because that is a little weird. So our bot has a lot of games. If anyone in here is from the C# Fritz stream and hasn't seen our stream before, you'll notice that we have a number of games on our bot. So we can do things like play Hangman, for example. So you can just do !HM and then the letter or word you want to guess. 1 second. And I'm back. Okay, so I need to put in the add word piece that was over here, because we will no longer need it over here. We will need it over here. Command alias modified. I'm going to pull this out of here, and we're actually going to put it back here. So I'm going to switch to using just a regular if null check on the operation to use, because we're going to do that alias modified in that case. So the idea here is we know that that's been modified if we run into this. Uh-oh, Janisku, that Hangman might not survive. I don't know what that word is off the top of my head. There we go. So I switched us to from a switch to an if-else because it's because currently we're off of those. Oh man, you guys are really gonna get this guy killed. Don't kill the Hangman. Don't kill the Hangman. I'm not sure what that one is, to be honest. I can't think of which word starts with an A as the second letter. And I know the whole database, and it's short. So there are not many words in there just yet. Okay. So this is basically what we're trying to build here. Help text would come from that. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to change it to try to execute. Instead of execute. And the reason is that I want it to return back that Boolean. And by making it return back that Boolean, I can then decide if it failed. Mango. Oh, man. Oh, that is a good one. That is an evil, evil word. What's the set? It's RSTLNE. Isn't that the set that is used by Wheel of Fortune? So I think if you'd gone through that set, and you usually start with the E, would you have gotten to the N before you died? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would have been your full set of letters. Because E's not in there either. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a mean word. You would die before you even got through the Wheel of Fortune set. Guess that's mean of me, huh? Okay, so we're gonna make return add word, which actually, I see no reason to have add word as a fully separate thing here. Because it's the same thing in this case. Return true. Okay, so these chat clients send messages. I feel like we shouldn't even have the chat client in here. Yeah, the Mango Tango. That's how that guy died. He died in the Mango Tango. So instead of returning a Boolean, I kind of want to return an operation result. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a new concept in here that we're going to call an operation result. Public class operation result. And an operation result is going to have a Boolean status. And a message to send. Why don't we say error message to send? No, just message to send. We're going to send the message whether there was an error or not, I guess. Heck, that's a good point. Do we even care about success then at that point? Maybe we don't. Ooh, that is a good question. Alright, we're going to chop this for now. We're just going to return back a string. So we're going to return back the message that we want to send. So this, instead of sending a message, is just going to return that message. And feel free to shout out suggestions, guys. I'm not the only one writing code here. And by guys, I of course mean ladies and gentlemen, or people that don't consider themselves to be a lady or a gentleman. Let's see, be sure to provide a new alias. Seem to be missing the new alias you want to set. Okay. The command word that already exists. Okay, so I think that'll work. And that code may end up living back here, which is fine. It was here, right? Okay, so... result message. And we will say chat client.send message result message for now. And we could do something more advanced with that later if we want. But I think that will do what we want to get it to do. Oh, that build's not going to work. Okay, so that is our add alias operation for now. I'm going to move this to its own file. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing for the delete alias. We're going to make this also a public class that does this. And the nice part is that these should be like super easy to test because they hopefully have almost nothing on them. Because they're down to like a single check. So on this one, we're going to return operand equals equals ins, and that's just my insecure, my case insensitive equals here. I couldn't come up with a good name for it. It's kind of crummy, but it does the job. So we're looking for del there. And like with our other ones, this will allow us to have multiple words that we're going to respond to for this pretty easily. So we could say delete or remove would both work. So if you can't remember what the operand is, hopefully you can just use one of those and get away with it. Okay, so in order to make this piece work, we need to jump back to our alias command again, and this time we want to steal everything out of delete word. Oops, meant to jump to this one. Okay. I'm going to import that, and then we're going to add a constructor to this one as well. This is going to take in an iRepository, which we're going to call repository. And for those of you that don't know, there are a lot of different reasons to use a generic repository that either has the type on the class or the type in the method calls. Now, in this code, we put it on the method call itself. And the reason we did that is because then you can get away with not having to, for example, pass in a number of different repositories to get two different things. Now, the problem there is you have to be careful because you can add additional dependencies that you don't want to have in your code. But as long as we're careful about that, we should be okay. Going to include link. And then that should be good. That code should now work. And we're going to go ahead and test these pieces now that we've pulled them out and we know what they're going to look like. And that's the basic structure that I was thinking we wanted to put in here. So now that I've yanked that out, we can go ahead and chop it out of here. So now essentially the alias command is pretty much just a collection of its operands. But in fact, we don't even need this anymore. This code that's complaining right here, because it should be handled by that one once I add in the new delete operation. And actually, in order to make that work, we're going to need to build this down here as part of the constructor of this. Now the reason we need to do that is because we need to add the repository into here, because that's the one piece it needs access to, and until we pull this up and have it actually get sent in as part of our dependency injection, this is the route we're going to have to take for this. So that's pretty much the change I wanted to make here. You'll notice how much smaller our alias command is now sub 100 lines, which is fantastic. I don't have a hard rule on this, but anytime I can make a class be sub 100 lines, I am a happy camper. Because it usually means that there's that I've broken out what is actually happening into separate classes, and hopefully each one's testable. So, now that we've got that, the trick will be figuring out if there's a way to reuse the concept of adding and deleting, or whether we're going to need an operation for each one. And that I'm not sure about just yet. Now, part of the reason that I want to do this is we can also now add permissions on operations, whereas before we could only have permissions on commands. So if we had two things that were part of the same command word, but we wanted to have separate permissions, we can now actually do that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the bot, and I'm going to go ahead and start it again using this new code. We're going to confirm that this new feature works. If it does, which we think it will, then we can add that permissions part to it. So let's go ahead and take a look. So if I just call alias with nothing else, it should give me the help text, which it does. So I'm going to say alias add, and then I want to say, what do we want to say about it? So alias add, we're going to add a new command word to alias, and I'm going to say, unless I already have an AKA. So we made a new command, so if you're checking over there on the right side of the screen, you should see, so it's over there, there's a little text box, you should see the stuff that's going on in chat. I can now call AKA, and that's treated as alias. So I should now be able to say delete, AKA, delete AKA, which is kind of funny, reusing it. So now when I do AKA, nothing happens, because it got deleted. So I was able to create and delete aliases using the new code. And if I attempt alias add alias, but don't leave in the word, it is responding back with our our error messages for you didn't use the command correctly. So it seems like all of those pieces are doing what we want them to. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this. So we are going to call this extracting alias operations. Hey, welcome. Welcome back. Hope you are having a good Thursday. So that is the code we just extracted there, and that is going to allow us to leverage the strategy pattern one level deeper. So one more bit of strategy patterning into that code. Let's go ahead and continue on this. So let's change a couple of things. So this, so the alias command, as you'll notice, is already restricted. What is the role we have on this? Mod 1. Oh, yeah. So we have it restricted to being a mod-only feature. Now, this is an example where we're not planning on doing both. Hey, welcome, Crimson. I was wondering if you were going to be here. Okay. Yes. So one of the things I'm trying to do here, and it's difficult to do this on stream, let me tell you, because Stream Brain is a thing. Yes, I'm trying to be very organized with the code. I'm trying to do things the way that I like to do it. Very organized, very clean. So you'll notice that we now have this class is under 100 lines of code, which I'm really happy about. We actually have I just finished breaking out the idea that we have a separate thing of like a command and an individual operation within a command. So the idea is that if you have the alias command, which lets us set up aliases for our commands, we might want an add alias operation and a delete alias operation, and we now treat those as separate things. So you'll see I have add alias and delete alias as operations that are part of the alias command. So that's basically the structure that I'm trying to switch us to right now. And I'm hoping people like that structure. I think it's going to do well for us. And I want to try to get it so we can break out some common reuse in this. So there's already a pretty obvious base operation we can create. You'll notice that my should execute is just checking against a specific word. I want to get it so that this is not specific to delete alias. I want to make it so that this is just a delete operation, and that it'll understand the fact that I've attached it to the alias command and find some way to make that a separate thing. Yeah. So it's if you don't think about the structure and try to keep things separate, it's really easy to just have your files explode into large files, lots of lines of code. So that's part of the reason why we're building it the way that we are. Did I actually hit commit on that? I did. Good. And actually, I'm going to click the push button and let it just go without me. So here's what I want to do now. I want to jump in here, and I want to test our operations. So let's make another folder called operations in here. And I am going to make a folder for add alias operation tests. And then I don't want to do it should execute because I'm almost certain that's going to come into a base class. But I am willing to do its try to execute code. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to make a new class, try to execute should. And I hope Crimson's still in here, because he is not a developer, he is more of a tech guy. But I expect that he does a reasonable amount of coding. And yeah, he's still here. And so it is probably interesting to see how some of these things are set up. So this is add alias operation, because we, do some interesting stuff in here. So this is a new mock of iRepository. And then I'm going to say .object there. And so that is going to get me my alias operation. Now I'm going to extract out the mock object here. And this is mock repo. And then I want to call add alias operation dot, whoops, not should execute, try to execute. And I need to pass in a new event args object to that. This is going to return back a string. And try to execute dot should. Why is that not working? Well, that was fun. Don't feel bad, that's what we call refactoring. Yeah, so as Skyhoshi points out, we wrote the stuff in a simple way to begin with, and then we're continuing to do it. That's why what I was saying is, you gotta be constantly working at it in order to actually make it look good. It's the same thing with me, Sky Hoshi. I do the same thing everybody else does. I write it the simple way to begin with, and then I fix it. That's how we all have to write code. There is no, like, you know, just write it the best way. But part of the reason why we do this, why we watch this, why we write this code, is to get us used to some of these structures and ideas and these better ways of doing things, so that we can jump to it the first time more frequently. So the more often that you do it the right way, the more likely you are to get it right the first time. Alright, I'm going to check. I swear I have fluent assertions on here. Do I not? I don't. Okay. Alright, well, in that case, I'm going to go check for that. Why don't I have fluent assertions in here? I'm sure I searched this last time to see if I had fluent assertions. And we've got net standard versions. Did this, like, fail to install last time? Yes. ELK. You are 100% correct. It is an iterative process. So, that's the whole idea with TDD, for example, is that red-green refactor, you can't skip that refactor step, because you're not going to do it right the first time. Okay, so it should be something. I don't know what it should be. And I don't really want to hard code it, but we'll see. Maybe we'll do like a should contain something in its string. We'll take a look. I just want to get this test. That's why the test name is test 1, for example, right now. I don't really know what we're going to build with this, but I just want to get it building, get it running, and then once my unit tests run, I can look and say, like, all right, what do I want to test about this? So, I really like the idea of, you know, just start to try to use your classes and then figure out from there organically what it is they should be doing. So, that should be our only failing test. I hope it is. Good. Okay, so test 1. We expected that. You seem to be missing the new alias reset. Okay. So I could hard code to this string, but then we're tied to that string when we test, which I don't want to do, because that's a little harsh. I should say contain, where I want to make sure that this one contains, say, the word missing, for example. That would be a reasonable way of saying that. Now, the problem is that what if someone changes the message to say, oh, you seem, oh, you forgot the something, right? And so it's hard to get away with that one. So I think I don't want to test the message here. I think what we want to check instead is this. So let's say mock repo, and we're going to say verify and I want to verify that this was called no times. So mock repo verify, and I think I can do that in this. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we want to verify that create, and what was it supposed to be doing? It was going to, I assume it was going to call create, right? Yeah, create, passing in a new command word entity. So we're going to say that we didn't call create passing in any command word entity. We don't care what it is. So we're going to verify that that was called, oops, it's in here, isn't it? Times never. So I want to verify that that was never called. And this is how I do it. So I am not going to check the text. All I want to do is I just want to say, make sure that this did not call that code. which is a pretty easy one to do. So that was new alias, that was argument 2. Okay. So now, let's rename this. Try to execute should not save given invalid arguments. Okay. So I think that's a reasonable name for that test, and there's a I could have been more specific in the name, and I will show you why I was not more specific in a moment. So that test now passes. You'll notice there's a little green icon there. That is my nice way of telling without having to actually go look at the results. And what I want to do is this. I want to create my new event args object given the values that this is actually going to need. So in order to do that, I'm going to put it up there. Exactly, Crimson. Except in this case, refactor the test, which is also an important thing. So I'm going to change from a fact to a theory. So this is XUnit's language for this stuff, and I am going to do inline data for this. And you'll notice it's already starting to complain about stuff. So see, theory methods should have parameters. I love that the tools know all this stuff. It's like, hey, by the way, you're doing this. It's like, yep, I know. I'm not there. Again, iterative process. So so this will be word string. Whoops. Whoops. I meant to be typing down here. Sorry. Word. And then new alias and type name. New alias, whoops, alias, string, do we really want type name? Do I need type name? No, that's coming out of the repository. I just need the word and the new alias. Right? Is that all I'm getting out of the arguments? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Alright, so those are those are the pieces that I need. So for this, I just need to have my arguments list be created with those values. So my arguments is going to be an array, and it's looking for that at position 1 and 2. So we're going to do that. We're going to say word, and then we're going to say new alias. So now essentially what I have is I have inlined the values that we're expecting to get. So in the first case, we'll have, say, what would be invalid? An invalid thing would be we didn't have the second one. So I will say null value, maybe? Given invalid arguments. Yeah, we'll make it null. So we'll pass in 2 nulls somehow. Don't ask me. Two empty strings. Actually, I might have to go simpler on this. We're going to switch back to a fact. I can't get away with this just yet, and I'll show you why. Those aren't scenarios I'm not expect. The way that I could write that, I'm not expecting that to be. We're going to say missing alias. Not save given missing alias, so we're going to have no alias there. And so this is going to be, so that would be add, and then this word is going to be alias, so that's the existing one. We expect this to fail, but I want to make almost the same test, and this one is missing existing word. So in this one, they will have just passed us that, and we expect that to give the same result of not actually happening. Yeah, so we expect those to go that way. So let's go ahead and run all the tests again. We'll see what we get. And this one passes. So it works with either one of those. Now I can't say, now someone might chime in here and say, hey, the same catch is catching both of those, and that might be. But that doesn't mean I don't want both tests. And the reason why is that if the code changes someday down the road, I want to make sure that my test still catches the problem. So when you do that and you say, hey, but you have two tests that are testing the same thing because they get caught by the same code, then what you're doing is you're essentially hard coding to that specific implementation, and we don't want to do that. We want to be open to the idea that that this might need to, the underlying code might change at some point. Okay, so I have a couple of tests on the case where it doesn't work right. What's another thing that we know it's going to look for? It's going to check to see if that word is already in the database. Are you doing unit tests or what tests? Yeah, we're talking about unit tests here. These are unit tests on this. So I want to do one more test where we don't save. So I'm going to say given alias already used. So in that case, that's where we have this existing word. So if the existing word is not used, we can say that that command word already exists. So essentially, we're going to do this check. Oh man. H. Limek? I am sorry for butchering your name, but welcome. Thank you for following. Okay. Oh, you haven't done any unit testing before. So it's actually a nice little piece, and it saved us in a couple of points in our code base because we were able to make a couple of things work as a result. So here's what I want to do. I want to set up our repository to respond back with a specific value. So I'm going to set up, a setup is basically saying, hey, repository, when someone calls single and passes in a it is any command word policy. Oh, whoops, no, not command word policy. Command word policy, there we go. Essentially, I want to tell it, hey, someone's going to pass you a command word policy. I'm going to let them both return back a value, and I'm not going to worry about it because it just needs to be non-null. Ooh. We'll have it return back a new command word entity. It's gonna get called twice though, so that's maybe a problem, but we're gonna expect, we're gonna see what'll happen. And I do know, in this case, that there is an additional assert that we want to do. So I want to get the message off of that this time, because I want to say that the message should contain, and in this case, it's whatever word I put into this object. So we're going to call this existing command word, existing command. Yeah, well, this existing command word. So existing word, we'll say. And should contain existing word dot command word. So essentially what I want to check here is I want to make sure that our error message came back and told us the word. I think it is important that it give back what word was used. And I think that's always going to be the case. So no matter what, the error message should always say what the command word was. Now I could break this out as a separate test, but I feel like they're really testing the same thing, and this is a specific of the scenario. But someone could make a case the other way for that if they really want to. And I'm going to pass in, so we need to pass in the full set of arguments here because we want to make sure that we don't catch one of our earlier exceptions here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in the real values, and then set up a repository, add alias operation, mock repository, and then there's our existing command word that we're going to verify down there. We wanted to make sure that this was never called still, because it shouldn't, because we failed. And then that's returning back the existing word. Let's go ahead and run this and see if I missed anything. We'll find out. That's the best way to check. Just go ahead and attempt to run it. And all those errors about failing to copy this stuff, that's actually because we have the bot running right now. And so it's like we're running it out of Visual Studio. So it's trying to copy over the files that we have going. So you'll see that the bot is right there. We don't have any logging turned on, so... Alright. Okay, it wants me to stop the bot in order to do that. I must have changed something that actually requires it to recompile everything. So I'm going to go ahead and run all the tests just to get it to not have that problem, and then once it's done, then I'm going to run the bot again. So bot's coming back in, everybody. I will read your question in a second. Good, our test failed, so let's read your question. Question, how would you save a history of, let's say, 5 Twitch chats you're connected to dynamically, knowing that sometimes it could be more than or less than 5? I was thinking about arrays, but I don't know how I could declare them dynamically. I would definitely have that. I would not store it as arrays. They'd get very large. Is part of the reason why I might avoid an array on that one, and just the way that arrays and lists and things like that are stored in C#, the fact that you would have to be adding your chats so like, if you just mean store the chat itself in an array, you can add another one, and that wouldn't really be a problem. I assume you mean like connect to 5 different Twitch channels, which we will be doing here. We are going to make it so our bot could connect to more than one channel. But if you're talking about how you actually save the history, as in like keep the chat messages that have been spoken in chat, I would not store those in that type of structure. And the reason why is that they're not designed for the level of inserts that you can get on some high traffic Twitch channels. So if you've ever been on any Twitch channels that have thousands or tens of thousands of people in them, the chat is basically just this explosion of text, and just storing that in an array like that is gonna get messy and difficult to deal with. So you're gonna want to use different structures for that. And specifically, the fact is that you're probably not going to want to maintain it all in memory at any given time. You're going to want to be like bringing it in and getting rid of pieces of it, and only having like a rolling. It's complicated. Yeah. So if you kept it trimmed down to like 15 or something like that, you could probably get away with something like that, if that's what you mean. But yeah, even on that, then I would still try to use something that rolls a little better. I would have to think about that one, like what structure would actually be the best for that. But I'm assuming an array would not work well. Okay, so where did it bomb? I am assuming that maybe something happened because we didn't call that twice or something. Let's take a look. We're going to debug this. So I'm going to toss that in there. We're going to hit our debugger. We're going to take a look. We're going to see what's going on. I have a feeling that this code is doing something weird. Existing word is an object. Type name came back null. Full name was null. Okay, we shouldn't blow up on that. Existing word is not null. Okay. Message should come back. There it is. Oh, and it's blank because I didn't fill it in. Should return existing word. It should be this one. I needed to set it here. That was my bad. Command word equals gwid.newgwid. And who's gonna laugh at that? Anyone think that's funny? I put in a gwid. It's a random gwid. That's the command word. Sorry, I made myself laugh there. Because whenever you need... So, like, one of the things that people sometimes mess up in their testing is they'll use the same words between tests, and they'll find that the test sometimes passed for the wrong reason because, you know, that was already a field in the class or something like that, and it worked. And they'll just be like, oh yeah, my code's working. My code's working. Look, it's great. My code's working. Well, kinda. That's why I like just the new GWID approach. It's like, I need a random string that I can verify is unique every time. I'm gonna gwid.newgwid. Yeah, what that is. Hey, there's nothing wrong with doing a gwid.newgwid on that. That is great. Don't criticize that one there, Crimson. That one's perfect. You don't get better than that. Probably lost like half of the chat viewers by putting in gwid.newgwid there. They're all like, "Oh my god, that's scary." I was kidding. I don't think people probably left based on that, but who knows? Maybe they did. All right, so that ought to make all that work. So we now have all of the not save ones, and I think that's a good set for not saving. Save the alias given valid arguments. We'll say so foo to bar and word policy existing word blah blah blah. Okay, so did I call this twice in the code? Once, twice. True should equal true. Ha ha ha, yeah. So the funny thing is, Crimson, that true should equal true stuff, that's actually almost always the first test that I write in a code base. And that just confirms that the test runner and everything is there and working and that I can run my tests. So that's like the sanity check. I put that one in there, and it's one of those like, this just makes sure everything's running. If that's ever not working, then your test runner isn't working. So true should equal true. So I like that one. It's also good for when you're setting up your continuous integration, because you probably want to have your continuous integration build running, and you want to make sure that your tests are actually working. And you put in one of those tests and it makes sure. Now the really sad part is that that was considered a link in Twitch. Your true.should equal true. 1 second. So for anyone who hasn't been able to tell from my coughing, I'm still fighting the remnants of that cold that just won't go away. Okay, so I'm going to return back that word, and yeah, it's the second time I want to return back a null, because I need to get past the fact that we had that message. So now I want to make sure that our new word is listed, which in this case means bar. So this will be the new alias. That's what we'll call that. And instead of bar, again, I'm going to gwid.newgwid. And I want to message.should contain new alias. Whoops. To t-string, toString. There we go. Yeah. What is GWID and how do you? Okay. I don't know if you're kidding there, Ace Flames here, but a GWID is a global unique identifier. I'm sure you've seen one before, and if you are saying that and mean that, so like let me show you an example of a GWID. This would be a GWID. So I'm using that because it is basically a guaranteed unique string that I'll never, like, I won't run into that one twice. Okay. I wasn't sure. That could have been one of those, like, just trolling me things. But yeah, that's a GWID. This is, they're called, it's a globally unique identifier or something like that. There is a mass ton of them. You'll notice it's basically just a big long number that is very, very unique. So it's a hexadecimal number. It is ginormous. There are enough for everyone. If you run into collisions on your GWIDs, you should play the lottery, because that is some major luck to have that many, like, to be able to run into a collision on a GWID. That or you didn't use a GWID correctly. Okay, so basically we're going to pass those in. So we pass in the word and the new alias, and that's as two separate things, which actually makes me wonder whether I can even make that work the way I want it to. I might have to cheat a little bit to make this function. Let me see if I can make this work. Actually, I don't think I can do that as command word entity, though. I think I can do that one. There we go. The max value on a GWID is huge, Ace Flames here. I forget how big it is. I'm sure you could Google for how big is a GWID, or how many GWIDs are there or something, but it is massive. I'm gonna, just do that so I can make sure that all runs correctly, and I'm gonna restart the bot now too. So the bot will be back in chat if anyone wants to mess with anything. That reminds me, I was gonna make a Fritz command. I don't know what the Fritz command is gonna be. Commands. Did I set this up? Fritz. We're gonna make it available to everyone. Hang on. There we go. So now there's a Fritz command that everyone can run that says let's all wear hats. That seems legit. Okay, so this test did not pass. And why? Oh, it was run one time. Whoops. I just didn't get my test right. There we go. So we wanted that to be run once. Because we do want to save this time. And now it passes, and it contained the new alias. So it looks like that worked. So basically, I set up, this is the first call. First call for command. Check for existing. Okay, so I need to refactor these tests at some point, just to make it a little nicer. But before we do that, I want to commit these changes, because that is a nicely tested piece of code now. 128 bits, wow! Yeah, see, there you go, Ace Flameseer. I have a feeling that ought to be enough GUIDs for everyone for a little while. Don't need to go much bigger than that. Okay, so... adding tests on, what is this? The add alias operation. And I kind of feel like I want to leave as a test for other people to be able to do the delete alias operation tests, which should be possible. Yeah, Ace Flameseer, it's common to use GUIDs in SQL. That's actually what we're doing here in our project. Let me show you. If we open up our database and we take a look, say, at our simple commands, for example. Whoops. And we take a look at the data in here, you'll see that the ID field on these is a GUID on each one of these. So yeah, no, it's no problem, Ace Flameseer. There's no, like, nothing to apologize for. That is why we are here. Everybody here is learning at some level and getting better at something they're doing. So somebody is here just to watch to see how another guy writes code. Some people are here to see the intricacies of the language. We are all learners. We're all beginners at something that we're doing. So, for example, I'm going to be doing a project in one of our streams coming up. I'm going to do a from-scratch ASP.NET Core project. And I've used a number of JavaScript frameworks in the past, but I was recently at a conference and saw Vue Js, and I haven't tried that one lately. So I looked at it a long time ago, and I've looked at a lot of different frameworks, but I haven't tried Vue Js before. And what I saw looked really interesting. So I think I'm going to try it. So I think on that project, we're going to try doing a Vue Js project using .NET Core 2.0 in Asp Net Core. So we'll see how that goes. And I think it'll be fun. So again, like the idea is that we're all learning new stuff. There's always things we all don't know. So there is never a point where you should talk to any... Heck, I have a feeling, and in fact, now that I think about it, I've been at conferences, so we talked about John Skeet before, because he was on C# Fritz's stream earlier this week, and actually John did say that he's busy right now, but that he would be open to being on Dev Chatter sometime in the future. So he did reply to our message, and what I was going to say is I've been at conferences before where he asked questions about C#. Specifically, he was talking to the team that builds C#. Like, I think he was talking to Dustin Campbell. who, interestingly enough, is actually a guy that's out of the same state that I live in here in the U.S. And that's but that was just a funny one, because it's like, yep, John Skeet asks questions about C#. Because, in fact, even though we all, say, like, yeah, he's probably the most knowledgeable person about C# outside of Microsoft, but to be honest, there are always things everyone doesn't know. So I don't care how awesome a developer you are, there's stuff you don't know. We all don't know things. We all know things that other people don't know. So that's why I'm glad you all are here, because I might be the one primarily talking on stream, but that doesn't mean I don't learn things from you guys. Okay, so back to the operations that we were creating. So the first thing I want to point out is that we have this idea of add, and we can obviously also do delete now. Or we did delete, and we can also do remove. So, whoops. If it's either one of those, we want to allow it. Which makes me immediately say, hang on, shouldn't we be doing this as a collection? Hey, Kasru! And the more you know, the more you realize exactly, Kasru. Yes. Yep, that is the more you learn about a topic, the more you realize how much more there is to learn, and every variant of that saying. It is a great set of sayings that I am also a big fan of. If someone's ever coming around telling you they know everything about something, then they're trying to sell you something, and that something might be themselves. I am going to make us a public abstract class, a base command operation here, which I'm not a huge fan of. However, the reason I want to make it is this. I kind of feel like, whoops, not override, abstract. Actually, no, this is going to be this one's going to be the virtual. This one's going to be the abstract. And I'm going to explain to you guys in a moment what I'm doing. Virtual bool should execute. Okay. So here's the idea. I know that a lot of these are basically just going to have a word on them, so I am just going to make a property that is a list of strings, and we're going to call this the operand word. Words, plural. Brendan, come on. You know what plural means. So I want to return operands words dot any. So we should execute if any of these words equals ins the operand. So essentially, I want to say if any of the words that I have match the one that was given, then we're going to say yes, we should execute. And there is our base at this point, which is just a standard one. Nothing special about this one. I'm expecting that we'll have a different one at some point, but I think that one will work well enough. We no longer need a should execute. We just need to set that value. And actually, I actually think we want to make this abstract. Can I do that? That was weird that it wrote it that way. Anyway, I'm going to add in my missing piece there, and I need to give it new list of string, and we're gonna put in add, and get rid of that, and we're gonna add the word override here. So we now just specify our operand words instead of anything else. So because this one didn't want to override that method, we can just do that. So now let's go to our delete operation. Actually, let's jump over here and just make sure that's okay, that's saved. This one is going to use a base command operation as well. I'm going to add that missing member. This is going to override. And then in our set, we are going to make this a new list of string, passing in delete, remove, and remove. So any of those words should be ways of removing, so you don't actually need to get that the way you want. So I actually prefer GUIDs because I can set them from my end in the code. Before saving to, I can return from the entity that was created with its ID without an additional DB round trip if I'm not late to the... Oh, yeah, so some people like to be able to create them and then shove them into the database. Usually, if you're going to do that, you want to take some kind of... So if you're not leveraging the ability of the database system to be able to generate those IDs as sequential IDs, you want to be able to use a GUID that is sequential in some format. So there are common implementations of that use some kind of time indicator, will generate a GUID and let you just insert that into the database, which is a nice way of making sure that you both get a unique value and also that it gets sorted to the end, which is a longer conversation about how SQL Server and other database systems work. But it's nice because Suzuna can just create the GUID that he wants and shove it into the database and not worry about it. What we're doing here, in order to make the same kind of thing happen, is inside of our EF setup. Actually, I didn't want to look at this one. I want to open up our migrations. And if you look at, well, I'll show you the snapshot so you'll be able to see what it is. So on the GUID objects that we use, you'll notice that they have this value generation on add that gets set up for us. So there's some magic that we're doing in this project, and basically it's all convention based, that is setting it up so that this is automatically getting its value generated on add. What that means is that when Entity Framework Core inserts this into the database, it's going to automatically create a new GUID for us and assign that into the value. And when we create, it's going to put that on the model object and return it back for us. So that that's basically that round trip that Suzuna is talking about. So ours happens when it gets put into the database, and Suzuna creates the GUID before inserting it in the database. Either approach is actually really good, and just whichever circumstance you're in is the essentially the idea is there's no right answer. It depends on your circumstances, so you can go either way on that one. But I have done both. Heck, back when I used to use a couple of other ORMs, I've gone either way on that. Okay, so that should be good. Let's go ahead and get this committed. So we should now be able to respond to a couple of different words. So we're now using our base command operation. Pull up a base command operation. And I want to say that's pull up because I pulled it out of our existing code. So that really is the code that they were both using before. We just pulled it up a level. And we now have a base that works for both of those, which is a nice approach. So you'll notice I use both composition and inheritance. Inheritance, I always keep to these simple things, like, just a check like that, and I create a base, an abstract, or something like that, and that's usually what I do for my composition is a simple thing like that. And when sorry, that's what I use for my inheritance. But then for the composition is when I pull in things like in my alias command, and actually we're going to jump back here, you'll notice that the alias command is taking in these two operations. So that's how we sort of set this up, is we have each one filling the role that it needs to. So, okay. So alias has add and remove, and those have been extracted into operations. So I like that. I think that that's a good approach, and I think this makes for a design which I think people can start leveraging. So I want to put in a to-do, despite the fact that I haven't tested to delete alias yet, because I want to make a task that someone else can do there. So if someone is new to unit testing and you want to give this a try, head on out to our GitHub, which I will send a link to in chat here. And first off, I'm going to pull request this in so that everybody can get access to this new structure that we're going to try to work to. Essentially, the tasks that I'm going to set up that people could work on, if you wanted to do an open source contribution and make a pull request, maybe your first pull request, is you could either try doing unit testing and do the testing of the delete operation, or alternatively, you could work on adding a one of these add and delete operations to one of the other commands that has that concept right now. Now, I'm not done with these concepts. We still need to do a little bit more work on them, but I want to make this available as early as possible because enough people are using it, or enough people are using this type of code that I want to make sure that they can see it and use it so that any existing pull requests don't get broken by this. So, commands, adding operations to commands. Okay. The only problem I have, I'm kind of stuck with MySQL at the moment because all the PostgreSQL cloud things are, for some reason, way more expensive. And if you want more than one database on Azure for a SQL Server, you have to pay for the Elastic. Oh, yeah. And the EF Core, yep. Yeah, Suzuna, there's always problems with that kind of thing. And part of that does come from the fact that Microsoft very much is a for-profit business, and they do support a lot of things, and they write a lot of open source, but at the end of the day, yeah, they need to make money somewhere, and so licensing on server stuff is pretty common. Okay, so we pulled that out. Here's the next thing that I want to do. So in this case, this was an easy one. I want to do one step further. I want to go a little bit more advanced. We did operations on the alias command, and I think we can go a little bit further. And the thing that we're going to add instead, so on alias, what was unique about it is that alias, or I should say what is normal about it is that alias has its restriction to mod right here. And I'm not going to say that you need to be any higher or lower in order to use some of these other operations. However, on some of the other ones, I do want to change that. So, for example, where is one where we have a restriction? So, the commands command. In the commands command, you will notice that the restriction is to everyone. So everyone can call the commands. So, for example, one of the commands that's part of the commands command is just saying commands. And it will return back the set of commands that you are allowed to use. This is based on your permissions within the system. So that is individual to you what the commands are that you can use. So you'll notice, and for anybody that didn't see, it's over there on the opposite corner of me. Is, and by opposite, I don't mean opposite, because opposite would be up that way, but, you know, like over there, you'll see that set of commands. And our list of commands is getting rather long, so we're going to need to do something about that. And there's a pull request coming in that's starting to handle it, but we'll take a look. There's some discussion that I want to have about that approach still. So, excuse me 1 second. I need to take a Pepsi break. Alright, that's probably good. No one thought that was funny. Anyway, so the difference is that on this one, if you want to add a command, you do need to be in a higher role. So you'll notice the first thing we check is, are you a mod? Coke greater than Pepsi. Yeah, see, we can start a war. Also, by the way, spaces over tabs and blah blah blah, and C# is better than Java, and every other war that we want to start in here. Do we have anybody that wants to start the Emacs Vim argument? Because we can start that too. Yeah, see, there we go. Thank you, Root Guy. Emacs is the best. Look, Root Guy, Emacs is a fantastic operating system, but I prefer a text editor. Okay, so here's what we want to break out. We want to break out the commands command. I'm hoping that once we break this out, we're going to be able to figure out how we can leverage these commands to not have basically just the code shifting from the command to the operation, and find a little bit of reuse in here somewhere. So we're going to do the add command operation. And it is going to be a base command operation as well. There we go. And the words that it's going to respond to are add. Whoops, nope, not add. Add. There we go. Notepad Classic, greater than all. Exactly. No, guys. Clearly, the only answer to that one is that no one should be using a text editor, because that implies saving something at some point. And that's just, who needs to save a file? I run only in DOS, like, 19, pre-Windows DOS, and I'm good. I load all of my programs off of 5 1/4 floppies. That's how I boot my computer. Okay, so I'm going to leave that as a throw not implemented. That's going to respond to the word add. Okay, so we're going to run into a permissions check right quick with this one. I am going to yank all of this code right up into here. I'm going to bring all this in here, put it right in there. So it looks like we do send messages and immediate returns in most places. It's inside of a try catch, which is fine. You echo to dev null. See, thank you. You get what I'm talking about, Arid. Okay, so in this one, let's go ahead and do another return here. So we're going to return that message. So we're now realizing that some of these, so I'm going to make a new type that I'm realizing we need to add a parameter to that. So let's go to where this is called, and we're going to trick the system. Well, hang on. I'm going to go up to here. We're going to add a parameter. This is going to get messy, but it's fine. We're going to change the signature. We're going to add a parameter. This is going to be of type chat user. Chat user. Hang on. There we go. I just wanted to get so what I wanted to do there was get that into the using, because I think having it up there is going to make it so that when I add this new parameter down here, it's going to pass that using statement around to the correct locations so that I won't have to do that myself. And I don't want to do anything special with that, so we're going to add in chat user, but actually I want to make that the first one, the chat user, and then the event args, because that I think is the normal structure. Use unique value of type chat user at the point of call if it exists. Yes! Yes! Oh, man! Oh, that is fantastic! I think it's going to wire them up for me. Oh, I hope that works. I have got to see what that just did. That might have done it. No, it doesn't exist. Okay. It left some of them as to-dos. Okay. Oh, man. There wasn't a chat user right here? We didn't have a chat user? Oh, because it's hidden away in the event args. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Oh, that would have been great. That would have been great. I forgot it's in the event args. That's my bad. That's my bad. We passed the whole event args, so we're okay. We don't have anything difficult to do here. It's on that. I forgot event args had it. So this is chat user equals event args dot chat user. There we go. Yes, Janiscu, VS Live Share is fantastic. As I'm sure many of you know, I am working on lining up some more pair programming streams. I am talking with other guests that we need to get on here, but scheduling has been difficult. Once we get scheduling worked out, we will hopefully have more pair programming sessions using VS Live Share. I will very likely try to get someone to be on the stream when I am doing the Asp.NET Core Project that I was talking about. That will be a very fun one, I think. Ronius? What do I think about C++? I like C++ as a language. I think it's a fairly good one. It's not a great language for doing things like websites, web applications, or really, I would say, most client applications. So things where you're expecting to have a user. I am not someone that has written a plugin for Minecraft. I would be surprised if there's not a scripting language for doing that rather than doing a language like C++. I'm betting there's a simpler one you can get away with for creating plugins for Minecraft. So I would recommend you look at that. So specifically ask for scripting. It'll probably be a little bit of an easier approach for that one. So if you have any other questions, but do feel free to shout them out. I don't program in C++ on a regular basis, but I do know a decent amount about the language and how it works, including some of the things that might change to it at some point. I'm really hopeful that Concepts Lite gets in there at some point. I've been waiting for that for a while. I think that'll be a great addition to C++. In fact, I want a similar feature added into C#. But anybody that is a regular here knows that, because I, frequently complain about the fact that we don't have that one yet. But that is an entirely separate story. Catch that and return. Actually, I want to return in here. So we're going to write that to the console and return. We're going to return nothing, and I happen to know that it's not going to send anything out. Yeah, see? So even though we primarily code in C# on here, I don't think there's anybody in this chat that isn't at least a little bit of a polyglot. And I would recommend that even if your day job only has you writing in one programming language, go learn another one. And the reason I say that you should go learn another programming language, whether it be a scripting language, like, you know, maybe you want to go learn Python, or you want to go learn Ruby. Maybe if you're really tied to .NET, learn C# and F#. But I think it's a very valuable thing for a developer to learn another programming language. Async awake, I would actually recommend, if you want to complement C#, I would recommend you learn F# as one of the languages. And part of the reason I say that is because a lot of the more advanced stuff that's getting added to C#, specifically the new pieces that are coming in C#, you know, 7, all the point releases of 7 and in 8, for a while now, actually, going all the way back to when we added like link and lambda expressions and things like that. That's adding in stuff like what's in F#. Hey, Wheelspin, welcome. So if you are looking for a complement to C#, F#'s a good one. Other languages that I think would be useful to learn as a C# developer, it would not be bad to know C++. And the reason I say that is because despite the fact that we don't deal with memory in C#, we get to ignore it for the most part, because our tools sort of abstract that concept away from us a little bit. Again, for similar reasons that I mentioned, the changes coming in C# in some of the newer versions, it is useful to understand. Yes, it is. It is Wheelspin. That's why I'm saying understand it, to know it. I'm not saying you have to write code in it. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, program all your stuff in it. But part of the reason that I suggest knowing it is that part of what makes it hell is the fact that you have to deal with all of these things that you don't have to deal with elsewhere. And technically, I should say no C. But the idea is you do have to understand more about what your code is actually doing and where it's storing things when you work in some of those lower level languages. So I come from a C++ background, which is part of why I know how C# is actually doing things behind the scenes, so I understand the fact that, oh, that value is getting stored on the heap, that value is getting stored on the stack, and things like that. Or, oh, we want to pass that by reference, you know, that means it's going to be doing this, and, oh, that's a value type, it's stored as this, that's a struct, that's a class. Okay, I understand how those are being stored because I have a background where that was more important. And by knowing that, I can be more thoughtful about how I use things in C#. Does that mean I'm always going to choose the right one? Absolutely not. I'm going to make mistakes all the time because I am human and my brain has derps. And we all do. So there's just points where we're just going to be like, we don't even think about it, we just write something and we're like, oh, that was the wrong way to do that, wasn't that? Yeah, so that's the idea there. Okay, so we passed in a few parameters. I'm going to grab the parameters right up here. There we go. Command word, static response, role required. That will be needed. Oh, did we call it role text once we called the thing? Hang on. We switched it to role text, didn't we? Role required became role text, I'm betting. Yep, to role text. Okay. That's fine. Role text. Okay, there we go. So what's in here? Heading in the RAR. You can write terrible code in any language. God Tisu, that is totally correct. And modern C++ is actually way better than it was in the past. That's very true. In fact, there are some things that you used to have to do in earlier versions of C++ that you no longer have to, especially dealing with memory. And yes, whenever someone points out to me that, you know, oh man, C# performance is terrible, C++ performance is better, I sit there and I'm like, okay, yeah, if you write bad C#, it's slow. If you write bad C++, it's slow. Like, I have a feeling there are a lot of, like, that I could take some random person, have them write some code in C++, and I have a feeling I could write some faster C# than their C++, depending on exactly what we're doing. And Worldwake. C++ feels like the necessary evil of programming languages. If it didn't exist already, somebody would invent it and call it a revolution. Yeah, so C++ does need to exist. I know, I have a number of friends that are C++ developers. They use it on a frequent basis, and they make a lot of good stuff with the language. And it is still valuable today, despite the fact that it's not a new language by any stretch. It's been around forever. And clearly, we could have improved upon it better by starting new. And it's been revving all the time. So, like, C++ is not the same C++ it was before. But, for example, there are times where you cannot get away with going... you cannot get away with using a language like C# or Java because you just can't have a garbage collector. So it's like real-time applications are a great point when C and C++ are important. And I should draw the distinction there that there are cases where you can't use where you wouldn't want to use the standard template library from C++ either. And Wheelspin, that is an impressive jump going from C to C#. Okay, I don't think we're ever not going to have the chat user, but I'll add that in regardless. Okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do about accessing all commands here. Yes, Janisku, you have to handle all of your garbage collection yourself, sort of. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this be a property. Create a read-only property, all commands. It is going to be a list, an iList, which, by the way, speaking of these things that we're talking about, an iList is going to mean that it is a reference type, first off, which means that this is going to be, by default, the same object as it is elsewhere. And actually, I think I want this to just be a field and not a property. So we're going to make it a private read-only field, all commands, like that. That's getting that. We're going to have a chat user. Quit complaining thing. And I don't think C++ is broken. No smart pointers are like... Yeah, so what God Tisu said there, Janisku, that is actually what we were talking about when we said modern C++ takes away some of the work that you had to do now. This actually got added into C++, and I believe it's also in Objective-C, which Objective-C is kind of like C++'s Apple sibling. It's probably a good way of describing it. And they do garbage collection now-ish. But the trick is that you don't have to do it. And you can get away without it. Okay, so I think that ought to work. Now we have to go undo these horrible, horrible things that didn't Control-Z out of existence when I was doing this previous thing, and I tried to add in the chat user. and it didn't wire together correctly because they didn't exist everywhere. Specifically in the test, they didn't exist. Alright, restarting the bot. Restarting the bot. Because it doesn't want to deal with my trying to build. Okay, so that pulls out Add Command into its own operation that responds to add. Now I'm going to make Delete Command operation. And it's interesting that I called it Delete instead of Remove. Not too worried about it. Now what I want to do is I want to grab these because it's going to need the same thing that this had. And delete command operation. There we go. There we go. Yeah, see, async awake using the CMD alias for command. So now I want to set up my list of words that this will respond to. We're going to have rem, del, remove, and delete. And those are all going to be words that we can use for this. Actually, I'm going to put del in front. And the reason I'm going to put that in front is I think I want that to be the primary, and that's probably how we're going to determine primary. So yeah, we've been streaming for about 2 hours now, which interestingly means that for anyone that's new here and doesn't know our usual schedule, around now is actually the time that we usually start the stream, and that would be for Mondays and Tuesdays. At this time is when we start the stream usually. But on Thursdays, which is what today is, we start a couple of hours early. So I like to shift the time around a little bit so that if your work schedule, for example, doesn't let you show up at certain times, it shifts around. So, because I know that we have a lot of viewers from the US. I think we're majority US, but we have a lot of users from Europe as well. So we're like 60% US and like 40% Europe or something like that. And roughly speaking, we have people outside of the U.S. and Europe. We have Canadians, we have Brazilians, we have, you know, like, I mean, we have a Brazilian viewers. Anyway, let's go to command, and I am going to steal this code. That's right, I'm stealing code for myself, everyone. And then I want to jump over here and steal this from it as well. Yep, there we go, bring those in. And repository is now going to be this one. And then all commands is going to be this one. We're not going to have chat client, we're instead going to just return back the message here. And someone said something in chat, which might have just been calling a bot command, but I am going to read it in a second. So if you're telling me I missed something, then I apologize and I will get to that soon. And until I get to it, I will look like an idiot for not doing whatever it is I forgot to do. Right, that's what I did. Okay, what did I miss? Someone called pet. Oh, wheel spin. What? You said Portuguese. I assume you mean Portugal? At least that's what we say in English, and Portugal's part of Europe. Last I checked, I mentioned Europe. And so as people are sending in there, yeah, there's a YouTube channel which you can see the archive of our videos. They're going out basically once a day. So you can find them on there. So good stuff, good stuff. If you want to keep chatting with us, seriously join our Discord. There actually are a bunch of us, and we do talk about development of the bot in there. And as I mentioned, we are going to be starting a new project starting soon. It's going to be an ASP.NET .NET Core project. Yeah, so the bot only has a tier 1 subscription, so it can only do the first of those emotes. It does not get the dev to derp or dev to fail. But if you do want to use those emotes, yeah, you can't use it either, Wheelspin. Until I get... so if my channel ever gets partner, I will be moving derp, fail, and hype all into the tier 1. But for now, they do have to get locked down. We're not going to do a facial recognition app, Sky Hoshi. That is not what we're going to be building. Good try. No, what we're going to build is... we're gonna build a fairly... So my goal with that application is to build an MVP, a quick MVP version of it. Basically get the whole thing running start to finish. I'm hoping to do that in one basically long session, just like knock out you know, a whole thing start to finish in like 8 hours, like a full working app that actually does a thing. So we'll see how that goes. The application that I'm planning on doing is I want to make it so that you can record board games that you play with your friends. So we're going to make it so that you can record who was playing in the game, who won the game, who taught the game, the name of the game, other things like that. And so we're going to set that up. I figure that's a fun app. It's basically just the idea of like, hey, let's build an app start to finish that has like some domain concept and some features that we can do. And then I think that'll be kind of fun. Basically, yes, Sky Hoshi, a stats keeper thing. And that's what I was thinking to build, because I'm like, that's a cool one. It's got some modeling, because I'm figuring the page that you created on, if you have a new player show up, you're going to want to be able to inline add in the new person and keep editing. So I feel like that is a nice, easy, like almost single page application kind of thing in JavaScript, where you could have multiple pages or a single page. And I want to leverage ASP.NET Core and use Razor Pages for that. We might do a combination Razor Pages and controllers. I haven't figured out yet. But I do want to use that concept. We're going to be using... my brain won't give me the word. It's where you put the words in your tags as if they're attributes, but at the ASP.NET ones, and my brain won't come up with them. They're, my brain won't make that word happen. Okay, well, derp. My brain just won't figure it out. So, anyway, back to this. I think that should work now. So we're still doing our check of your user on your role inside of these. No, not Angular. I'm not talking about which framework we use to do the binding. I mean the... how did my brain come up with this word? ASP.NET, it's like, what is this called? I for some reason my brain won't come up with a feature name. Hang on. I know the thing. It's been, I mean, it's what you use instead of helpers. Tag helpers. Tag helpers. There we go. I got the word. Hey, and Coded Beard, you got in there with it. Yes, that's it. Yes, tag helpers. I'm glad I got it before seeing that. But yes, I was derping there a little bit. Yeah, tag helpers. But I don't know why my brain just wouldn't come up with that word. But yeah, tag helpers. So it's a nice approach for that. And so the cool thing is that, so I mentioned earlier that I want to use Vue Js for it because I saw Vue Js recently and it seems really fun. I haven't used it before. And one of the things I like doing on this stream is just jumping into something like that. Integration of the soundboard to the bot. Async awake, I do want to add the soundboard into the bot or revisit the soundboard as a standalone project. And my guess is it'll be after, because my goal with the ASP.NET project is to knock it out in a single long stream. So I might do that as like a start a few hours early and just run for like, you know, an 8-hour stream or something like that. So I might start in the morning my time and go all the way into the evening with maybe a couple of short breaks so I can eat food, or maybe I'll eat food on stream, who knows. That would be entertaining. That wouldn't be entertaining. I was kidding. No one wants to see me eat food on stream. Oh, sorry, wheel spin. I just restarted the bot. RIP. Okay, so now that we got that running again, so the bot is back up and running. I just wanted to make sure I could get my build in there. When you are in the game and the bot says good... Oh, yeah. Oh, I hadn't even realized you guys had a rock, paper, scissors game going. You'd love to see your face and your food, but not your face with your food. Yeah, that's a good point. So I need to figure out some way of having like a food camera. So like you can see the food, and then we turn that one on while I'm eating, and then when we're done eating, I switch back to my face cam. That would work out nicely. Yeah, CMDS is not one of the aliases for that. So alias add commands. Let's do CMDS. And thanks for starting up that Hangman game there, Wheelspin. Yes, the Sandwich Eater game. It'll be fantastic. Alright, so I pulled out these commands in the commands command. So let's do that to start with. So we're getting rid of those methods. They no longer exist. I'm going to take a look at the alias command, and I am just going to copy pasta out of it the operation to use. And we're going to do this here. So we're going to say operation to use, operations. We don't need to do that. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to send out a message. And inside of here, list of command operations. So we're going to bring in command operations, and then I'm going to set up these operations inside of the constructor. And this is add command operation, and this is delete command operation. And that takes in repository, and what else? All commands. All commands, that's fine. All commands. Who took my Hangman game down? Oh, did someone kill There's no Hangman game running. What? Oh, someone won it, I think, probably. Yeah, see, Janiscu guessed the word. Whoa, I do not know what that word is yet. Oh, I know what the word is. Bam! Victory is mine! Ha 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 ha! Ha ha ha! I got you guys. Okay. So we're gonna do an else else show all commands. So there we go. Get rid of this. We no longer need those. So basically all we do now is we just check and see, like, oh, did we get an operator? We did? Okay. Which operation should we use? And then run it. I'm thinking that the way this is going to work, we're going to need to break out some kind of different concept where the idea that you have this collection of operations exists for your code. I think that's the way we're probably going to do it. I know the word. And then the race for who can type in JavaScript faster. Sorry, Asig, wait, Kazur got there first. Oh, man. The race to get... Yeah. The Hangman Game. I want to get that displaying on screen. That will be on stream at some point. On screen. Okay. Sorry, guys. I just started a game, but I'm actually going to... Well, here. We'll finish that game of Hangman, then I'm going to restart the bot. Okay, there was an R. Oh, I got the word. I know it. I know it. I know it. Hey, Async Awake got it. There you go. Yes, Wheel Spin. Wheel of Fortune's the word you're looking for. Oh, yeah, Sky Hoshi, give me a warning. I'm probably gonna... Wheel of Dev Chatter. Alright, guys. You can add Wheel of Dev Chatter as a feature request if you like. And we will be setting... We are gonna finish up Heist also, don't worry. I just wanted to get to some of these because people were sending in pull requests, and I'm like, I want to get some more, like, refactoring structural changes in before too many more pull requests come through. Just because I want to get people able to use some of these new bits. Okay, so we did that, and then... so, Kazur, do you like the new operation stuff? Yeah, so Wheel Spin, toss Wheel of Dev Chatter on GitHub. So if anybody has suggestions for features or notices something wrong with the bot, seriously go to it. Oh, dang it, bot's not running. Derp, derp, derp. Ah. What I meant to say was go to GitHub. Oh man, that is hilarious, Wheel Spin. You're right. Is Wheel Spin actually a Wheel of Fortune reference? Because that'd be hilarious. So go to our GitHub, check it out. You can add an issue if there's something you want us to work on. That's the place to do it. And then also, if you want to see archives of our old shows, they're starting to go out on YouTube, and I actually had scheduled them well in advance. So I think there are like a dozen episodes set to go live. There are like 3 on there right now, and they're just going to go out like roughly 1 a weekday. So Monday through Friday, new videos will show up on there. So feel free to head out to our YouTube channel and subscribe, and you will catch those. So if you missed early stuff and want to see how the bot started and how we got to where we are today, that's a good place. You can also see me fail a bunch as I try to do that. Ah, well that would be pretty cool, Wheel Spin. Okay, so if I do, let's give this a try. Wheel Spin. So we're gonna say Wheel Spin. When I type that command, you'll see that that does not work. We're gonna add a command. This may exist someday. Everyone. Oh, did we crash? No ref. You guys can't see it. Add command operation line 50. All commands must have been null. All commands equals all commands, which came in from here. Where did this get called? Commands, command, all commands is all commands. Oh, I think I know what happened. I'm gonna do this. I bet I know what happened. So we attempted to assign it out here, and you'll see that we're setting it equal to the commands list. We're resolving the commands list and assigning it in there, when what that means is that I'm losing the reference to it. So we need to not do that. So what that means is I need to get the reference to this without that. So this is going to assign a reference to it. I can't do that. I need to wait until this has been set before. And so since that gets set after the creation of this object, I run into a problem when trying to connect to the all commands. It's an interesting problem. That object won't be there. It gets set after that. There's a few ways I could do this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this a property with a backing field. So we're going to do a real property here in C#. Whoops, there we go. So I could lazy load our operations. You know what, I'm going to lazy load our operations. Here's what we're going to do. We're not actually going to have them until they get called. We're going to do this for now. You guys will see, I'm not a big fan of this, but I don't see a way around it. Yet. So we're going to have operations. This is going to be a backing field also. Whoops. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say when you go to get it, we're going to say unless someone has a good suggestion. But how would you see it does when you can? Oh, okay. So we're going to say is we're going to return operations, or if it's null, then we are going to return operations equals and this new list. We're going to pass in the repository that we have access to. Base command wants me to have operations. Oh, that's true. I could do it that way. What did I get rid of that it wanted? What's the type I wanted? What did I get rid of? Did I break its constructors? Did I seriously nuke its constructors or something? I must have... Oh, yeah, I nuked the constructor. When did I nuke that constructor? That's weird. I don't remember doing that. Must have just chopped that thing at some point. Not even paying attention. Just chopped a constructor. That's pretty awesome. Wheelspin? I don't know what you're... so, we've been planning on having overlays here for quite a while. We need to have them at some point, because we want to do... So, one of the oldest features that I have had planned for this bot is actually achievements. That's in our... You'll notice it's in our list of issues on GitHub is to have achievements. Hey, smartasky. And essentially what I want to have happen is, like, over there in the center of the screen on the bottom, I want to have it, you know, just slide up and be like, achievement unlocked, you know, for, like, someone, for something. So, for example, the first time you cheer, I want to have it pop up and be like, achievement unlocked, cheered, or something like that. And so instead of having, like, alerts, I want to have achievements. So, like, the 10th time you cheer, or you cheer over 100 bits, or something like that, that triggers an achievement. Or the first time you win a game of Hangman, for example, you win an achievement for saving the Hangman. The first time you win a game of rock, paper, scissors, you get some achievement for being lucky, you know, or something like that, right? And so various things, or like, you know, you've shown up to 10 episodes of Dev Chatter. That should be an achievement that you unlock. So just various things like that. I want to be able to set up this collection of achievements. So that's something I want to build into the bot, is this achievement concept that it's tracking. And I want that to be overlays that, you know, plays a sound and pops up a message on screen. So that's what I want to have happen. And then, you know, there's going to be a command that you can say achievements or something like that. And you could see, like, and maybe that'll report back, like, an achievement that you're working, your most recent achievement, or maybe the most recent one and the one you're closest to getting next, or something like that. So various things like that. Or maybe achievements would send a link and we'll bring up a page, because the bot's probably going to get hosted somewhere. And if it's, you know, spitting out data, we might make it so that you can see that somewhere. So yeah. Yeah, sorry, Kasru. The hype emote is only usable by subs. Thank you, Twitch. But should be good. I like the idea of having achievements. The idea is to have users actually be able to control hardware in my... Yes. Yeah, yours is really brave there, Wheelspin. Being able to let them actually control hardware in your location is a brave concept. Okay. Casher. Yes, exactly. Yes. Nothing like imagination there. No games are running, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the bot, and we're going to go ahead and restart it. Smartasky, if you're still here, how's your day going? Missed your stream last night. I think you canceled it, didn't you? If you're still here. And actually, if I haven't done it yet, we got hosted by C# Fritz, so I am going to give him a shout-out. That didn't work. Why didn't my shout-out work? Is the shout-out command broken? Oh, right. It's a shout-out. I forgot about that. Alias, shout out to SO. Wow. Okay, there we go. So fixed it. So you'll see, that's how our alias command works, everyone. Yeah, I did that as a demo. Uh-huh. Yeah, totally. You guys believe me, right? That was intentional? Smartasky, it's going well. I'm actually messing with TwitchLib as I take a break. Yeah. development for Windows has changed quite a bit, Smart ASCII. It is not what it was 10 years ago, for example. If anybody is actually interested in any gaming, Smart ASCII does a gaming stream, so which is going to surprise you based on its name being ASCII, that it's a gaming stream and not a programming stream. But yeah, it's a gaming stream. So you can check it out. It's pretty good. I'm there watching sometimes. Okay, so what I wanted to try here, we did the commands command. Let's see, is that one still there? Commands. We're going to add in, we were going to do a wheel spin command, so I'm going to do wheel spin, and I'm going to say this will exist later. We're going to say that that can be used by everyone. There's already a command using wheel spin. What? Oh yeah, there it is. This may exist someday. So commands, remove, wheel spin. Did that bomb? I feel like that bombed. Or maybe what I meant to say was this. Okay, let's see. Why did that fail? Delete command operation line 43. Delete command operation. Go to line 43. All commands, single or default, where the commands should execute. Oh, maybe. But I passed in. I did commands remove wheel spin. That word should have been there. Oh, wait, because we removed it here? Why did that, how did that possibly fail? Yeah. Congratulations, Wheelspin. You broke the bot. Sorry, what I meant to say was the bot's broken, so... No, my bot's broken. No, the bot's fine. I was just kidding. No. The Fritz command is a different command entirely. Look, let's all wear hats. See? That's all it does. It just says let's all wear hats. Yeah, that's all the Fritz command does. I don't know who that could be referencing. I don't know what other dev stream that's making fun of. You know. Maybe poking fun at? Maybe poking fun at. That's nicer, because I'm not really making fun of them. I'm just kind of, making a joke about it. Wait, sizzle? There's a sizzle command? There's no sizzle command. What you talking about? Yeah, thank you. There you go. There you go. Alright, so... Oh, so what's the deal with this one? Why did this one not work right? Here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to run the bot in debug mode. Because I want to see what happened. That was weird. Okay. Wheel spin. Doesn't exist. Commands. Add wheel spin. Jeopardy is better. Oh, dang it. Okay, so we're null refing on that still. Thought that would fix it. Apparently that doesn't fix it. Line 50 of Add Command. And while we look around for this, alright, so we jump in here. All commands is null. Glad you thought that was funny, Wheelspin. Okay, so all commands is null, so we're gonna bomb there, because all commands was null. Alright. In the commands command, when we create this, operations, when does this first get checked? Oh, we didn't use it, did we? This got used, I bet. Oh, that's still in the constructor. Right. Duh. I found the problem, guys. When I fixed the issue before, we didn't totally fix the issue. There we go. Okay. There, fixed. I think I got it now. Okay, so commands, remove wheel spin. Moving the wheel spin command. There we go. Okay, so I really did fix it. So I'm gonna make my new command here. Wheel spin, Jeopardy is better. Wheel spin, Jeopardy is better. CMD remove. Oh no, I already tested remove. Delete wheel spin. So there we go. Alright, cool. So that is working now. And all the wheel spin commands are gone because we don't want anyone to actually find a wheel spin command and have something say Jeopardy is better, because then I'm going to start a holy war. Alright, so this is pull command management into operations. We're going to push that one as well. So that gets that going. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, it's way easier, Wheelspin. Using the aliases are quite nice, but the thing is that I really want commands to exist. That has to be there because people are going to call that. They're going to type in, you know, exclamation point commands all the time to try and get that to work. And so they're going to show up to a chat and just try to use that because it is so ubiquitous. So it's important that that be there because someone's going to look for it. So that's why we got to make sure that that works. Okay. So let's see. We got add commands. We got delete commands. Hey, Tudo, you're back. Tudo. Command. Oh, command. Alias, aka. What? Oops, whoops. Alias add, alias aka. Clint-tron, welcome. Thank you for the follow. We're gonna alias add commands command. Okay, so now command works also. So now you can type commands, command, cmd, cmds. You can type like everything you want. And good try, Echo Strike 36. And Twiggy Dev with the Python is better. I actually used to be a Python dev, Twiggy. But I am a big fan of C#. I think there are a lot of very good languages out there. And if you like Python, keep deving in Python. It's good stuff. Okay, so that gets that stuff working. So that's pretty nice. Good, and yeah, I'm on Windows, so there won't be a sudo help alias. Yep. So one of the other things I wanted to add in here. So here's what we thought. So I pulled out these ideas of these operations. Something I want to do at some point is I want to improve our help command. Right now, if you type in help and you say like help, and then I don't know, coins, for example. No, that one doesn't have one. Help give. There we go. Give coins to someone. Example that. So there's a lot of stuff to do in here. That help text isn't that great, and I kind of feel like we want to have like a way of getting verbose help text, but I'm not sure. Josek Palka, you work as a Java dev and you're doing web stuff. Boring things like CRMs, invoices, things like that. Yeah, so that stuff can be boring. But really, Josek, you are a Java developer and you don't like C#? I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I'm not sure I've ever heard like someone that actually has used both and actually like, because I know a lot of people that are Java devs that feel like they're about the same and don't really have a preference. But I don't think I've ever heard someone say that they used C# and didn't like it. Josek, when were you? So you said you did your Bachelor of Science on it. When were you using C#? Wheelspin, it is illegal to trade your currency for IRL stuff. That is against the terms of service, I'm sure. We don't openly say that, but yeah. So, yeah, not used to people that will actually say that stuff has been in that one. So, Arg1 question mark, help the thing. Use help to see the available Arg1's that. Request a command. Okay, so, I kind of want to make a... So, I want to check and see if you passed in some kind of a verbose operation. C# is cool, but Microsoft is absolute garbage. Worst company. That's actually, I don't think that's true. So I know a lot of people that don't like Microsoft for a variety of reasons, but I think Java has popularity first because Java existed first, but then also because Java is it's been multi-platform for a while longer. But I will also say that this is not the place to really get into a big war about this kind of stuff. Let's see. 2014, where they had courses in .NET technologies, mobile apps, and the one first was Web Basic, and the other was mobile apps. Interesting, Jozek. I would wonder what part of C# you were actually using, and whether you're talking about the language or .NET in general. That's the issue, because if, for example, if you don't like MVC, like the implementation that ASP.NET had, I could see not liking it for that reason. Or if you didn't like Xamarin, for example, that would be a reason to not like building mobile apps with it. And Async Awake, if you actually find that, I'll be impressed. As far as I know, you can't trade dev chatter tokens for anything except more dev chatter tokens. So I want to do this for now. I want to say and yeah, I know a lot of people that don't like Microsoft for one reason or another, which is totally fine. Whoops. So if you pass in a -v, then that means to do handle a verbose request. You realize this operation? I wonder if every time someone says lock, if they choose me. Yeah, well, I will say, in terms of a language, Jozek, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that actually knows Java and C# and says just talking about the language and not frameworks. That I think you'd find a hard time getting people to say that Java was a better language than C#. Now, you'll find a lot of people that'll say that they're different, right? In that there are a lot of people that will point out that, you know, there are things that Java does well, there are things that C# does well. But for the most part, the feature set in Java got passed by C# about a decade ago. And C# started adding in a lot of features that Java doesn't have. Now, there are a couple of things that Java did that C# has yet to do, and there are people that are worried about that. There are concerns about the implementation of generics in Java, for example, like type erasure, for example. If I believe it still does that, is something that kind of scares me. I apologize if that's if our discussion of language stuff is getting a little technical for everybody, but that's one thing that has always concerned me about Java, is that there are places where it wants to be able to support the old code. They want to maintain backwards compatibility, and so have they've not made as large a change as they want to, which is the same problem C# is running into now, where they can't do everything they want because they don't want to break as much. Yeah, so C# did pass Java in terms of functionality. That, I think, is an objective thing that you could say at this point. C# has added more features than Java. But I don't want to say that I find a hard time saying that one language is better than another, because one of the big reasons, and this is actually the reason why Java was always was able to maintain so much popularity, Java's been cross-platform for a lot longer than C# has. So monos existed, but I mean, that's not like first-party support, whereas now Microsoft's really out there pushing C# as like a cross-platform solution. In VS Code, for example, everything we're doing on stream, we could actually do in VS Code. Yeah. So Wheelspin, you actually could just add. You guys are right. You could just make new accounts, bring them into chat, and you can get dev tokens for them. You are welcome to do that if you like. You're probably violating some kind of Twitch terms of service, but it doesn't really bug me if you want to do that. Okay. So. What we were doing before, I pulled Arg1 already, so I'm going to move that here. So instead of calling it Arg1, let's call this yeah, so okay, Arg1, that's fine. We're going to say if Arg1 is that, else if arg1 is set to that, which it won't be. We'll say else if arg1 is that, do that. Okay, so if we hit one of those, we're going to do that. Actually, I'm going to have those go first, and we'll just ignore them. This is the real check. These are like stupid things that we have up there. They don't do anything. So in this case, I want to change arg1. I want to set a Boolean value. Is verbose mode. Is verbose mode equals true, and then arg1 is gonna equal event args, arguments, element adder default 1. So we're gonna shift it a little bit in this case. And should execute for that, and then send message help text. If is verbose mode, else that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get different help text if it's verbose mode. What? F you. That was the default. Piece of junk. Alright, what are people saying here? All accounts on the stream right now are actually mine and controlled by me. It's just you and me, Brent. Oh, cool, Casru. That's awesome. I guess you always say because I figured you said. To be honest, maybe if I had to make a transition from Java to C#, I'll be able to do it after learning the differences and learning the dev tool. Yeah, so Josek, I know, so the number of C# devs that I know that used to be Java devs is actually quite high. I know a lot of them, because the transition was pretty easy back in the day, and if you were using Java to write apps that were going to run in Windows anyway, it was a pretty easy thing to change to. And actually, I'm not sure how much bigger Java is than C# right now anyway. Then additionally, one of the other funny ones is really the creation of C# was almost Java's fault. There was a sort of an argument that created it, in that I don't think Java wanted Microsoft to include Java updates as part of Windows updates or something like that. I don't remember. It was so long ago. But there was something like that, and that's part of the reason why C# even exists, is because the .NET framework got created because Java didn't want Microsoft included in Windows updates. And now most devs that I know don't even they won't even install Java on their computer. They refuse to have it installed because of the security risks. Studio lights today. Oh, that's really cool, Wheelspin. Lights turn on. Yeah, I think, Josek, that it depends on where you are. But if we just talk worldwide numbers, I'm betting that you can check out Stack Overflow to get a pretty good idea of that. What was the Stack Overflow survey? So the 2018 survey, for example, on Stack Overflow, which I know isn't like super scientific, but does get a reasonable number of responses. So percentages of people that say they use these languages, 45% of people said they use Java and 34.5% say they use C#. So hence they're not terribly different at this point. Lots of people have to write in these languages. So it's kind of an interesting one when you look at that data. So it's interesting stuff. Yeah, it really depends on where you are. I'm actually in a I'm in an area that is not a C# area as much. Also, if I were a streamer or radio host, I would have to sneak a OK Google and yeah, OK Google. Yeah. What do you say? Android, it will wake it. That is quite annoying. Yes, don't forget to install the Ask toolbar. Okay, so right now we have help text, and this just returns back basic help text, but I want to get a verbose help text. So maybe we'll call this full help text. And that I understand that's going to break a lot of stuff, and that's fine. That's going to be a big change. And this needs to be a new branch. So let me go ahead. Did I merge in my pull request already? Did you guys let me do that without merging that in? Add operations to commands. Let me merge this in first. There we go. Now I'm going to go and fetch master. Pull in those changes, update the branch, all the fancy stuff for me. And then we get away with this. So now when I do my build, I should have a whole bunch of errors related to all kinds of things. We're going to implement that. And then on to the other one. We're going to implement that. Because all right, Wheelspin, have fun. This is the time when you lurk, by the way. I don't know how much you guys actually know about what lurking actually is. Help text. Why can't I just set it equal to that one? Oh, right, because I gotta get rid of that. Duh. Derp. Derp. Occasionally I'm an idiot. Alright, so Alright, there we go. So now this one. Thank you for the lurk, guys. This is what's going to break everything, is when I do that. I can put you on the map of jobs available and pull in from one job to compare seizures. Yeah, Josek, I'm betting that there's a lot of that. Around here, there's a good number of both. I know a lot of C# shops that you can work in. A lot of Java shops, too. So, if we do that... Oh, actually, you know what I should have done? I wonder if I can get away with it being virtual. Oh, well... Yeah. Sorry. Nightbot will block, links. Well, thank you for the biddies, Wheelspin. Appreciate it. Yeah. Nightbot doesn't like it when you send links. Sorry about that. Yeah, much appreciated, Wheelspin. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed the stream today. Good luck in your CSGO matches. Have fun. So, I'm trying to think of how I want to put this together, and... So I think what I want to do is make it so that by default it just calls straight through to the other one, but then down here you can override and put in your own help text if you want. So I might want to make this something like use I want to give this structure. If that makes sense. I want to kind of be like use primary command text. Okay, alias creates new aliases. Manages aliases for existing commands to... Okay, so here's what we want to do. Okay, so... So I want to say... this. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. Watch what I'm doing here. Tell me if I'm crazy. I mean, I might be crazy. No chill turtle. Yes, at first we are all intimidated by coding. It is very confusing. There's so much to learn. There's a lot of syntax. There's a lot of... it's a very challenging space. I'm a weird example in this because I started programming as a small child. I was 12 when I started. So I am actually the child of a programmer. So I have been doing this for a while. But I can tell you, even at the time, I was very intimidating, and even as I learn new languages and new technologies, they are always intimidating at first. So don't worry about that. That's perfectly normal. It's pretty much just welcome to the new language. It's going to be intimidating, but you just kind of stick with it and do what you can with it. So here's what I want to say. I want to do use and primary command text, and then I want to say operations, underscore operations 0. So I'm just hard coding this in right now. We're going to loop this eventually, but I want to do this at first. And I want to say primary something or other. So we have that. I want to make a property called primary word. And this is just going to be operand words dot element at or default 0. So, well, actually, I guess it'll just be a first or default. So we're just going to grab the first or default word as our primary word, which now means that I want to change my alias to use base command operations instead of I command operations, so base command operations. So we're going to shift that around, and so now we're going to say primary word. Which actually, maybe this should be part of that. This is going to be part of that. So we're going to say operations dot operations 0 dot help text. We're going to put help text on this thing. Okay, so what did people start talking about? And of course, cities like Warsaw. Okay, lots of IT jobs. Wheelspin started it on Arduino. Wow, that's interesting. C++ like 10 years ago when you were in technical school. That's cool, Josek. I also did C++. It was more than 10 years ago, but yeah, I definitely worked with that. And yes, no chill turtle. I will tell you, you want to learn as much as you can outside of your classroom, because what I find is that most classrooms don't actually teach you how to program very well, depending on what kind of program you're in. If your teacher is not a professional developer, like full-time professional developer, they're going to do things very differently than how a professional developer does, especially in modern code. First, you wanted to be a systems administrator, but when you found out that there are no more jobs in yes, there are a lot more jobs in programming than there are in systems administration. I actually did some work that would be considered systems administration when I was in school. And used to work as an IT tech for 4 years before you got your first job as a programmer. And yes, studio is controlled. Everything's controlled by Arduino. Yeah, no chill turtle. I remember. So I used to run an internship program in the company I worked for, and I used to tell the junior devs that were in our department, I would tell them, okay, we're going to teach you how to do this right. Don't do what we're doing back in your classroom. Your teacher doesn't really know how to write code, and so if you go do this, they're going to yell at you because they don't understand what you're doing. So you need to make sure you have that distinction of write code the way they do it when you're in class and write code the way we do it when you're here. You'll learn how to program correctly, and they seriously don't know because your professor has not actually written any code professionally for about 30 years, and doesn't really know anything beyond C. They don't even know C++. And yes, I had to tell that to some people. Programming is a language agnostic. Yes, it very much is. That's actually why so many of us are polyglots, Sky Hoshi. Your programming language is not really what defines what code you're writing. When you entered Java last year of high school, but we did very basic stuff. High school, we even an ancient language. Oh, Pascal! Hey, that's not, I mean, yeah, it's an ancient language, but it's not that bad. One of my favorite languages is actually, oh, yeah. Thanks, Ace Flames here. No, Wheelspin. You can learn many other languages. And thank you for the follow, No Chill Turtle. Hopefully we'll catch you back here on a regular basis. And I assume that means that you are enjoying the stream just a little bit. So, yeah, the, many developers only learn one language at one point, and then they learn another one. So, Wheelspin, your goal, learn another language. If you only know C. Okay, and I'm not worried about that error because that's just the one complaining that it can't copy the files because the bot's currently running with those files, so it can't overwrite them. So primary command text is that. So then inside of the alias command on its help text, we're going to say get the help text of that, and then so what we're going to say is this. So I'm going to make this complicated, guys. I apologize. Underscore operations dot select. Jonah91, thank you for following. Actually, no, we're going to do it this way. We're going to do string.join. And what we're going to join on a space. We're going to do operations.select, and we're going to select the help text. And then that is what we're going to print out for help text right there. So welcome, thank you for following, everybody. Wheelspin, good luck, have fun, win your CSGO matches. Appreciate the follows, everyone. Hopefully you're all enjoying the stream. So if I did something weird right here, basically what I just did is I grabbed the operations collection that we have for this, and I'm essentially going to join together each of their help texts and print that out as part of the help command for this when you ask for verbose help. Sky Hoshi, structs are value types in C#. Yes, that's correct. Classes are reference types. That's also correct. Do you want your structure to always have a value, or do you want it to be nullable? Yeah, so structs won't be null, Sky Hoshi. And yes, you are correct. Structs are value and class are reference. But that's a concept that might be getting some changes in future versions of C# as they're starting to mess with some of these ideas. Wait, in response to Echo's off topic, feel free to ignore. Why would you use a struct instead of creating another class? So there are a few reasons, Echo Strike. Some of the types of code that we use, we do end up using structs for a variety of reasons. Some applications where performance matters, we don't want to be using reference types for certain things, and we want to be passing around literal values. There are different things that you can do with a value that you know can't be null, for example. So structs will never be null. You don't have to bother null checking them all the time. Various things like that. Different types of applications, if you want to get really into specifics, there are spots where you would want to have your value be on the stack instead of versus on the heap, whereas a struct by default is going to be on the stack and a class is going to be on the heap. And yes, if you use a nullable type that, yep, as Sky Hoshi says, if you put a question mark after it. Echo Strike, a property could be a struct or a class. A property is just is really just like it's almost like a member. It's a property is more like a method that wraps a member variable. Is the nice way to say that. But yeah, what Sky Hoshi said is it's basically a nullable is just a generic class object that will wrap a struct for you. So that T in the nullable of T, T could be a class, it could be a struct, it doesn't matter. Now, I will say that behind the scenes, what C# is doing with generics when you have a class versus a struct, it's actually setting it up differently, so there are some differences, but not a lot of them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say use alias delete to command to delete to delete an existing alias. And now jumping over to the other one, I'm going to implement the missing member here, and we're going to say use alias add existing command new alias. Maybe old command new alias to add an alias to a command. Skyyoshi, accurate properties are unique methods that are focused on a specific member. They are not meant to be treated as complex methods, but could be. Keep in mind performance issues when using reflection, as every time a property is called, the method portion must file and return. Yes, that's actually why for some things you want to use fields instead of properties. And methods don't have to return a specific value, and properties must return the type specified in the declaration. Thus, you can have a method, a void method. Yeah, but there'd be no such thing as a void property, for example. A property is like a member variable, but it protects the way the member variable is both set and gotten from outside the class. Yes, that is well described, everybody. And the other interesting thing is it even changes the way you access it, because on a property you don't pass, it does not accept any parameters, so no arguments get passed to a property, whereas they can be on a method. So there's a lot of variance in this. And anybody that knows Java is probably noticing that this is the same thing, and all these little bits we're talking about are all that we, know how C# works pretty well. You don't need to know C# super well in order to use it. You can get away with using it and not know all of these little bits. Alright. Did I seriously get all these commands updated with help text? No. Use commands add command word response text role required to create a new command. If you're ever brave enough to look at the IL sometime, you'll see that these properties and shortcuts we use in our code are just as the shortcuts. Yeah, so Sky Hoshi, I love actually digging into IL. It's actually quite fun. Yeah, so there are a lot of tools that do it. One of them is the IL disassembler, or as I like to call it, ILDASM. I will quickly show you guys what IL actually looks like by pulling up our bot. So using the IL disassembler, we can actually take a look at the code that's in our bot. So if you want to see, for example, what one of our commands looks like, it's going to be pretty ugly, but we could take a look at the coins command, for example, and the process method for the coins command. Yeah, we're not really going to look at this. I'm just going to show people so they can see what this is. So this is actually like what is created inside. So when your C# gets compiled, it becomes this. So, and you can kind of tell what's going on even if you don't know IL that way. So you can see that we loaded in this string, 0 has 1 tokens. And so this is actually kind of the funny thing is that we're actually really using a string format on this, even though that's sort of hidden away by string interpolation. Yeah, chill, turtle. Don't let this. Don't let your eyes bleed. But yeah, this is what it is. This is what's really going on. So this is our coins command, and we could take a look. We were just looking at the alias command, right? Oh, actually, inside of operations, we were just doing the add alias operation. So this, for example, is the add alias operation. So you can see everything it's doing in there. It's really cool. So you can actually take a look and you can read what that code is. I'm not gonna dig too far into that, but you can actually see all that stuff. So it's really neat. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So that's basically what it gets compiled down into, No Chill Turtle, because C# is not, it does not compile all the way down. It goes into what's called the intermediate language. And it, for example, Java goes down to bytecode, and like the idea is that they're just going down to a language that's kind of like an assembly language. That and that's sort of what they are. It's sort of like a fake assembly language almost. And it lets us work at a slightly higher level. To delete a command. So that assembly language is actually what lets Java and C# run in different places. So the idea is we don't have to compile for a specific platform or a specific processor or anything like that. We compile down to that intermediate language, and then there's essentially a runtime, and that's what the .NET framework like runtime. If you've heard of the like JRE, that's a Java runtime. This basically just puts in an interpreter. So you can almost think of it as like C# is kind of like the combination of a compiled and interpreted language, and it's sort of like you compile down to an intermediate language, and that intermediate language itself is interpreted. Is sort of the idea. I'm being a little loose with that. Yeah, if you had to write that, you would go crazy. No Chill Turtle, yes, you actually have more control at that level than you do here. There's a lot of things that are available. So that's actually what, like .NET code really is that intermediate language. And you do have more ability in there than you do at C#'s level. Yeah, Sky Hoshi's description is correct. So some of the other things you can do, for example, in intermediate language, there is no protection against... So if I try to call a method on a null object, for example, my code blows up. Even if I don't try to access any members, and so my method could have been static, if I'm running an IL, I can get away with that. Luckily, my function that I was editing was trying to change it simpler so you know what you're looking for. It. Yeah. If you ever do have to make those changes, you can sort of get away with some of that. Okay. I am going to commit these changes. This is a new branch. Verbose help. I'm not going to merge this one in yet. Adding in operation help text. I'm going to push this up. But I am going to wrap today, I think, because we have been up for almost 3.5 hours. Int main. We have an int main, actually. No chill turtle, sort of. We have a void main right here. It's kind of similar. So, yep. Void main. We're right there. Right there with you. Anyway, I am going to call it a day. But before you go, don't forget that all of our code that we do here on stream is out on our GitHub. That's github.com/devchatter. So you should take a look at it there. If you did enjoy any of this and you haven't yet, you should click that follow button so you can catch the next time we stream. It will be really helpful for us. We hope that you show up and talk and chat, and so we appreciate everybody that does that. So thank you if you showed up and chatted today. I want to thank everybody that followed, and I want to thank Wheelspin for the bits. So thank you for that cheer, Wheelspin. I want to thank all of our subscribers. We do have a number of subscribers that they are people that want to help and support the channel and make sure that I can keep doing this on a regular basis. I would love to do it more, but obviously this eats a lot of time that I could otherwise be, making money. And so I do as much of this as I can. We want to thank C# Fritz for hosting us today. So I'm going to give him a shout out. So if you don't, you should also check out C# Fritz. So C# Fritz is another person that does .NET streaming. If you want to keep talking to us, you should join our Discord, which I've linked in chat now also. Most of these links are down below also, if you are on Twitch. And if you want to catch some of our old videos, they're in the video archive on Twitch for a while, but they are also being archived on YouTube, so you can take that link, check out our YouTube channel. I've got those. They're coming out at a delay right now, but basically I'm scheduling them to come out one a day, Monday through Friday. Our Twitch streams are just going to come out on the YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to that, you'll be able to catch all of our old streams. And yeah, thank you, Kasru, for making it out to the stream. Thank you, Sky Hoshi and No Chill Turtle. Appreciate everybody that was here and chatted today. We had a lot of good people. Really appreciate that, Chill Turtle. I'm glad you liked the stream. And we will be continuing. Our next stream is on Saturday. Remember, we stream on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So 4 days a week. And our schedule's down below if you want to check it out. Or if you go to our GitHub, you can find we have a stream info project on there, and that has our schedule on it as well. I've linked most of this stuff. And yeah, have an awesome day. And happy coding. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. And yeah. Bye, everybody.